And then I noticed that I said this was the final, but there is actually another one. We just don't really use it. It's not that effective either. And that is basically increasing the density of work that you are doing. And what I mean by that is you basically say it takes you an hour in the gym to get your workout done. If you can get the same amount of work done in 55 minutes, 50 minutes, 45 minutes, like technically that is progress. Like progress. Why did I say it like that? Technically that is progress, like you have done the same amount, the same total workload, but you've done it in a shorter period of time, right? Now, assuming that you've kept the exercise technique and the tempo, etc., all the same, the only thing that can happen then is your rest periods have reduced, or you've been more efficient getting from exercise to exercise, right? So assuming again the weights stay the same or the reps stay the same, et cetera, all those other variables stay the same, like you have done more work per unit of time, which is probably going to produce some sort of progress, right? But again, practically speaking, there comes a limit to this, and like some classical programs have used this, like that Vince Garonda's 8x8, where they're just like, we're going to do 8 reps and we're going to have a certain period of time, like you see different period of times between those 8 reps. But let's say it's do 8 reps, rest 30 seconds, and you're basically trying to get like you do 8 sets of that. So 8 reps, 8 sets of 8 reps, and you have like 30 seconds or whatever between each set of those. And then you're trying to get that down to as low as possible a time period where you're basically just taking a few breaths in between those eight reps, and it's basically just one continuous set then, which is, quite interesting to say the least. Sweat is a word that I would use, but anyway, you can use that. Like, it's not like it's a bad progression method, it's just probably not the most optimal. It's probably not going to produce the fastest results. It's also one of the harder ones. It's also impractical for most people because you're probably going to have to wait around for at least one piece of equipment in the gym. Even if you're training at home, like there's probably going to be some sort of changing weights around, moving equipment, blah blah blah. So like, are you just getting more efficient at keeping your home gym tidy? It's like, was that the PR you made versus an actual like progression in the weights that you would have been able to lift, etc. Right? And also, if you're focusing excessively on this, you probably are limiting the amount of weight that you can lift or the amount of reps that you can do, purely by virtue of the fact that you're not going to want to add more reps if it's going to mean that your workload, your time in the workout is going to go up. So you're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to add that progression, even though you might have been able to. And also, if you're only taking like 30 seconds or whatever in between sets, you probably aren't using the maximum weight that you could potentially be using for that set, because you're only taking 30 seconds break, so that is something to be aware of. There are some ways you could do this that make a little bit more sense. For example, like escalated density training, like EDT, that can be quite effective, and it can be something that you're basically trying to increase the density of work. You basically set a timer, pick 2 exercises, usually like antagonistic exercises, and you go to town at those. You do like 6 to 8 reps, we'll say, right? And you alternate between the 2 of those, and you're basically trying to get more work done in that 20 minutes, right? That can be a really effective way to implement something like increasing the density of work. However, again, you are still generally limited by the weight that you can use or the reps that you can do, or equipment availability. Like, I've done stuff like this before, of stuff like chin-ups and dips. That can be quite effective because sometimes they're at the exact same station. It's just like, reach your hands up, put your hands down, you're done. But generally speaking, like, my dip strength and my chin-up strength are not the same. So I ideally would be adding weight to the bar or adding weight to myself between those, but practically speaking, I probably don't. So one of those two is either getting an over or under stimulus as a result of that. Now, again, you can overcome that by doing more reps for one of them, but again, it just starts getting a little bit messy, right? But density is a method that you could use, or I should say, increasing density is a method that you could use for progression. It's just one that you don't see used as often. Do you have any words to say on that, Gary?
Just that the primary time I use this is with those body weight exercises. Like, what I might say to people is, right, we're doing body weight chin-ups. I want you to get 30 reps or 40 reps or whatever in as little time as possible. So they can strategize it themselves. They might get 12 reps, then 8 reps, then 5 reps, then 5 reps. But ultimately, it still allows for progress because they're aiming to shorten the time period, and they're also aiming to get more reps per bout. So it might be initially they have to take ages because they can only do 4 chin-ups and they're aiming for 30. So they do their 4, they might need to take a minute and then they do their 4 again. Whereas over time, that person will get to the point where they're able to do 10 or 12, and then they've got, the challenge done a lot quicker. And then what I'll generally do is increase the overall rep target, or we might add weight or something like that. But again, it's just another way that you can plan training, and yeah, a way of progressing it too.
100%. Anyway, look, that's pretty much all. Like, there are some other minor ones that I'm sure someone listening to this will be like, oh, well, actually, I use this progression method. You didn't mention that. There are some minor ones, but they're the kind of major ones, and hopefully give you an idea of how to think about this stuff, how to think about progressing your training over time.